30 million naira might seem small to some people, but it's not small to me. A lot of things, a lot of risk go into transporting birds from other states to your farm. Due to circumstances beyond my control, either the truck driver, he had a problem with his engine, they had to transfer them. I have seen a lot in this business. And so that is why I knew that sleep would be far from me because my container is on the road. And it is a huge loss if these birds come in dead. Before you enter into any bad hands in buying birds, in starting your agriculture or your farm, please listen to this video. So the last video I did where I showed how I welcome my point of lay birds and everything, there were some questions that came down under the comment section. So in this video, I'm going to be answering all the questions and the possible questions you might have when it comes to buying birds from other farmers, point of lay, the cost, and how much I spent. Let us start from the beginning. Buying point of lay birds for your farm, you have to have a trusted supplier. You have to have a trusted supplier. The person that supplies your birds, you have to be sure that the person is trusted, that the person has integrity, and the person will give you good birds. There are high risks in buying birds from other people, and in this video, you would know all the risks and what I have done over the years to cut my risks, what I have learned from, and how I have moved on. Welcome to this channel. My name is a fitness farmer. Start from the beginning. Somebody asked, how much did I buy the point of lay birds? For new farmers coming on here, I might not know the meaning of point of lay. Point of lay are birds that have been grown by another person, and we are buying these birds at 14 weeks in hope that these birds might start laying by 18 weeks, 16, 18 weeks. That is why they are called point of lay. Buying them at the point of their lay. Buying point of lay birds in Nigeria is so expensive. It was not so expensive back in the day, and that is why I say, hopefully the last video I did where I showed how I welcomed my point of lay birds, that might be the last time I would buy point of lay birds, because going forward from now, I want to start brooding my own birds, and these are the reason. It is expensive. A single bird now costs 9,500 for 14 weeks. And this is coming from somebody who was asked in Port Harcourt. I've called Lagos, I've called Ibadan. As of today, as we are speaking, a single point of lay bird is being sold for 9,000, 9,500, depending on their weeks and age. And so, check it out. If, as a farmer, I am buying 3,000 point of lay birds, 3,000 times 9,500. Let me do a small calculation. It's going to give you about 28,500,000. So imagine a farmer using 28 million, using approximately 29 million to buy 3,000 birds. Just imagine. So the cost of point of lay birds now in Nigeria is so expensive. Over the years, I started buying point of lay birds at 2,900 to 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. So imagine me buying point of lay birds now for 9,500. And that is where I said, after this year, I would not buy point of lay birds again. I will start brooding my own birds, which means I have to build a place for me to start brooding because of the cost. And not only from the cost, over time I have never bought birds from my region. Why? Somebody asked me that question in the last video when you saw the truck and where I said that my birds were coming from Ibadan, and I paid 1.3 million naira as transport from Ibadan to Port Harcourt. Now imagine spending 29 million naira buying 3,000 birds and now spending 1.3 million naira as transportation, which makes it 30 million naira approximately from both birds and transportation to your doorstep. Now, for a farmer, that is usually weighty. It is stressful. Now, for a farmer to be bringing out that money in bulk, it is stressful. If you are brooding your birds, you don't need to bring out that money in bulk. They will be growing and you'll be giving them small, the feed. They keep on growing and you'll be giving them small. So you do not feel that amount of money leaving your chest. And also, of course, people that are brooding those birds, they are in it for the profits. So you will not be spending 29 million naira to brood 3,000 birds if you're the one brooding. And so that is why I said, no, this business of buying point of lay birds is not getting too expensive for me. It used to be cheaper back in the days, but right now I do not think I can handle it after this year. So I hope I answered the question of that person who asked me, why am I paying for transportation from Ibadan all the way from Ibadan to Port Harcourt? It's because of trust, number one. The person I buy birds from, I have implicit trust in him. I have bought birds from their company for over 4 years now, and I have not been disappointed. I have not found any good person around me or my region to buy birds from. Number two, where I stay, Port Harcourt is not a farming state per se. It's not like Ibadan where you will get birds, Lagos. So people do not brood in that numbers. Even if they might have brooders, I don't know them, or I do not know people that brood in the numbers that I want to buy. And that is why ever since I have always bought from Ibadan. Now let us go into the risk of buying point of lay birds. I have a friend who bought point of lay birds sometime in the past, and along the line, the driver had an accident, and his truck fell and all the birds fell on the ground and they died. Yes, so imagine you spending 30 million naira in this day and age. And imagine me, if you watch that video, I told you how I did not sleep throughout the night till morning because my birds were on the road. Normally, these drivers load these birds around 4 in the evening because of the sun. So that because the sun will have to come down for them to load the birds. Like I said, birds die more from heat stroke and stress. So it is better to transport birds when they are cool or when the weather is cool. And that is why they load these birds in the evening. So from 4 p.m. when they left the farm, coming to Port Harcourt from Ibadan, me as a farmer willing to receive them, I did not sleep. I did not sleep because in the past, there are times when my bird have stayed for about 48 hours on the road due to circumstances beyond my control. Either the truck driver, he had a problem with his engine, they had to transfer them. I have seen a lot in this business. And so that is why I knew that sleep would be far from me because my container is on the road. 30 million naira might seem small to some people, but it's not small to me. And it is a huge loss if these birds come in dead, they come in weak, if the driver does not even come into Port Harcourt at all. Imagine you losing 30 million naira in one night. You can't recover from it. Or rather, me, I can't recover from it. And so that is why I kept awake. I would track the driver. The driver was so gracious. He would answer my call 6 a.m., 5 a.m. in the morning. I called him. He answered. I said, please, where are you guys? A traffic jam at Benin that they stayed there for up to 4 hours. They had to even bring the birds down, pour them water. A lot of things, a lot of risk go into transporting birds from other states to your farm. And so this is what I had to bear. I kept on praying and putting my chaplet in water, praying for my birds to come to me in good condition. After the whole delay, birds are stronger than you think. Birds can survive for 2 days without food, but they can't survive without water. But please don't try not feeding them 2 days without food. And so my worry was about heat. Heat, because the longer they stay on the road and the sun meets up with them, that is a problem. My worry also was about the driver. If he's not seasoned enough to know how to, maintain them, to know how to keep them alive, because most times when the sun is too hot, if they're caught on the road, this driver is supposed to pack and offload them. Yes, you offload them, you find water and you pour on them and you load them back. So these were my worries. The stress of the birds. They are young, they are weak, they're in traffic, they're coming to me. It's a long journey. So many things crossed my mind. But I knew that when rain started falling in Port Harcourt, heavy rain on that day, I did not know if God just said, this girl, you will not weep again. I was not on YouTube last year. If not, I would have come out to talk about how I lost so many birds due to heat stroke. Maybe I will give that in this vlog. So I had a bad experience last year, not from the farm that I was buying from. They are okay, they are great. I had a bad experience from the driver. So I'm going to come to that topic, how you can avoid such drivers. But let me finish the story. And so around 5, he told me that they are now at Bayelsa, but there's another traffic. Normally, he's meant to get into Port Harcourt by 5 a.m. if he leaves Ibadan by 4 in the evening, throughout the night till 5 a.m. in the morning. But before he got to me by around 10:30, 11 on that day. He was about 7 hours late, but there was no problem because I said, okay, rain fell, and when they got to me, I saw that my birds were alive. Among everything, I lost only one bird. And that will show you how seasoned the drivers were. Many things can cause mortality for you on the road, despite the things that we see on the road. Number one, the truck or the bus that you use. And this is where I will come in. Please and please, when you buy point of lay birds, I am begging you, look for a truck that has air. If you see the truck that I used in my video, you will see how airy, how spacious, and how the truck is. Please and please always ask for the kind of truck that they are using to bring in your birds. Last year, I paid for a truck, and last minute, the man changed to a bus. He told me, don't worry, the bus was airy. I was so shocked to see how they jam-packed my birds in a tight bus. You know those transport buses last year? And I lost over 80 birds in one sweep. So you can imagine a farmer losing 80 birds when they arrive. And I started battling to even keep the rest of them that were not so good. They were weak, they were struggling. You can imagine my pain when they got to me and they were dead. More than half of them dead. And so that is why, from experience, I know that the first thing I would do after confirming the farm integrity, is to talk about the transportation. And so, yes, there were cheaper means of transportation. Buses that might go for 1 million naira, 900,000, but I did not want that because to be penny wise, pound foolish to actually jam pack my birds into those tight buses and lose beds trying to save 200k or 300k for the 1 point something. Because if a bus is telling me 1 million and a truck is telling me 1.3, is it 300,000 out of experience that I cannot pay and know that I have to get to my birds in good condition? And that's why I chose to use the truck and it favored me. So please, if you are buying point of lay birds from a very far state, please look into the transportation. It is very, very important. After verifying the source of your birds, I did not have a problem with the source of my birds, but I had a problem with the transporter, and that is why I insisted on knowing the kind of truck bringing my birds, the driver, and everything went smoothly. So yes. Another question that was asked in the video of the last post is, why were they using clothes to stuff the side of the cages? Right now, there is no space in my farm. Every single corner of my farm is built up with cages. So these birds, most times when they come at 14 weeks. Sometimes they are okay, but most of them, sometimes they are smaller. And because of they pass through the tiny holes in the cages and they come out. And so we use clothes or those bags to keep them, to actually seal the cages so that they will not come out. This thing will not last for 1 week because in 1 week we would have fed them enough for them to not seep out from the holes of their cages. Why you could see us stuffing their cages with clothes or bags just so that they will not come out. And most of them came out, as you can see in the video. We were running after them. It was chaotic. But at the end of the day, out of experience, I knew what to expect. Another thing again that I knew what to expect before they came was I knew that some of them would still seep from those cages. And so I used rope, like they are twines, to actually tie across the cages. If you watch the video, you will see most of my boys tying ropes across the cages so that those ropes will serve as a barrier and they will not pass through that barrier. And that is another reason why I use ropes to secure them. But trust me, this phase will not last for 1 week. After 1 week or so, we feed them, they won't be able to come out from the cages. So yes, please, if you're buying point of lay birds, most times they come in small from other farms. Just being frank, do not expect too much when it comes to them. But please do your own due diligence so that you won't be thrown into chaos when all your birds are out of their cages, they're not eating, they're walking on the ground, for those of us that have battery cages. Another thing again I did was, before you welcome point of lay birds, it is good that you buy anti-stress or vitamins to help them because they're coming from a very far place and they are stressed and they need. So the first thing that you will give to them, I'm sure you saw in that video, was we are mixing anti-stress to put in their tanks just so that they can drink water and their body will be cool. You saw that video where we are mixing stuff in their tank, we are mixing anti-stress for them to help them get over the long, tedious journey. Another important thing I would like you all to note was that 2 of the guys you saw in that video were not my workers. Now, let me tell you something. When your point of lay birds hits your farm, especially if you are transferring in numbers, in great numbers, you would need to move those birds as fast as possible. Remember that the truck came in by 11. If the sun is too hot, it can also affect your bird, die of heat stroke, and it is not really good for birds to be kept in those crates. Remember that they have been packed in those crates for over 24 hours. And so to ensure a smooth transfer within 1 hour, max 1 hour 30 minutes, everybody's in their cages, I had to employ extra hands. Actually caused that transfer to be smooth and efficient for my birds. So that is why if you're buying birds in numbers like that, if you are understaffed, let's say you have 4 workers, you have to outsource so that you would have a smooth, seamless transaction from your birds to the cages. You would see me touching the water in that video. The reason I was touching the water or touching every single nipple in that video was because, see, I have had an occasion where I did not know that a line of my nipple was blocked and my birds were not receiving water. I lost over 10 birds that day. So out of experience, almost every day as I'm feeding them, we touch the nipples to make sure that they are getting water. Remember that egg is made of 70% of water. If your birds are deprived of water, they will die. If your birds are deprived of water, they won't lay well. So that is another reason why I kept on touching those nipples. And you could see, as I was touching them, some of them were blocked because of the older birds that I sold before. There was a gap before we got this new one. So we had to, do a lot of maintenance. Always check your pipes. Please, always check your pipes and nipples. It's another great cause for mortality. Personally, right now, I have never brooded my birds because then it was not so expensive to get beds. But as it stands right now, buying one bed for 9,000, 9,500, it is getting too expensive. So I have decided that that would be my last point of lay buying. That going forward, inshallah, God will help me next year. If I get a good brooding place, I would brood my birds. I would brood my birds close to me so that I do not pay the whooping 1.4 million naira for transportation. And also, I would actually incur less costs. I will not use up to 28 million naira to brood birds from day old to 14 weeks. I will not need to bring out the money in bulk. As they come, you'll be buying feed, buying their drugs, buying their, vitamins and their vaccines small. So the weight on your shoulders will be reduced. So yes, if you're asking me, which is better? Should we buy point of lay birds or should we brood birds? I will tell you, brood your birds if you can. You can even contract it out. I have a friend, he gives the whole contract to a vet, who helps him and his workers, monitor the birds and everything. It is cheaper. The only reason I never brooded birds was because I did not have the space to brood them. And so right now I have a space, but I have not built. So the next thing on my mind now will be looking for monies to build a brooding space to cut off all these things, to cut off the stress, to cut off the risk involved, and to cut off the volume of money involved, and to also be sure of the quality of your birds. Because the truth is, nobody will brood your birds like you. Because it's like people are doing it for business. And so whatever you see, you get. Some farmers have actually complained about buying point of lay birds from other farms and they were disappointed. The birds did not do well. So many of them died. That is another disadvantage of buying point of lay birds. I have not been in that part of my birds dying, if not for transportation. The quality of my birds so far has been fair. To be fair to the company that I buy from, it has been fair to a great extent. But can I do better as a person? Of course, because whenever you brood by yourself, you impute everything. You're sure you are giving them the right vaccination, the right drugs, the right every single thing, of course. So if you're brooding by yourself, your quality would be better than the ones you're buying from outside for commercial purposes. But if you cannot brood, if you do not have the space, you can buy point of lay. You can buy point of lay birds for up to 6 years or more. But right now, I am done. Hopefully, by God's grace, if I see monies, I will build another place to brood my birds. If I don't see monies, I'll come back here and tell you another story next year. But I am looking and I am hopeful that I would be able to have a brooding space for my birds and I don't have to pass through the stress that I do every single year. Another reason why I want to start brooding my birds is because most times when I sell my birds, I sell according to the company. Like let's say the company that I'm buying from, these birds, if they have only 2 batches remaining for the year, October and December. Say I want to sell my birds in November and I want October batch. I'll be forced to sell my birds in September just to get October batch. So that's another reason why I want to brood my birds, because I can be forced to sell my birds anytime or any day I want. I can afford to keep them and even buy new birds to be growing while I am still keeping them and selling them little by little on my own terms. And so I hope I have answered everybody's question or the possible questions from this video. For coming to my TED Talk, if you watch this video to the end, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for following me and see you guys next time.